Good afternoon, Patriots, and welcome to the 72nd audio chat on the Q News Patriot Rumble channel series. I'm the Q News Patriot, joined today by Americans with Disabilities advocate and court observer, JW. My name is SG Anon. One of the things we've been following here on the Q News Patriot in recent weeks and months is the development behind the take back or the reclamation efforts, if we can, towards the common law, the grand jury form of government here in the United States, the cleaning out of the corruption of our judiciary and the highlighting of the very same. And one of the big examples of that has come out of Virginia, and that's actually how JW and I were able to connect, a group of Virginia Beach Patriots out that direction, which the audience is, I think, acquainted with at this point in time, have been making staunch efforts towards reclaiming the court pulpit, the judicial pulpit, the rightful reins of power in their community, and they've been met with heavy resistance. JW has actually been a resident of Virginia for a long time and has been at this very table and this very workbench, if we want to call it that, for some number of years, and she has quite a bit to add to the discussion. Additionally, she's been on site there in Virginia Beach a number of times and can weigh in with some significant expertise, and I'm very glad to have her on. JW, thank you so much for coming aboard.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. This is so important. What Aldo is doing, and Victor was a hero that day for standing up and speaking out. And the public needs to understand about the grand jury. It's the fourth arm of government, and we own it. It was created by our forefathers for us to have a way to keep checks and to be able to hold accountable the other three branches, the executive branch, the legislature, and the judiciary. And that's what scares them more than anything, is that we, the people, have power, that we, the people, can hold them accountable. And it was back in the 60s where they started to realize that we had this power. And what you found is all across the United States, the legislatures started rewording their statutes. Remember, they're not allowed to do a law that is unconstitutional to us, or a law that is violates our rights. So in Virginia, what they did is a statute that it doesn't say shall, it doesn't say may, it just says the Commonwealth attorney lawyers will present to or the Commonwealth attorney is the one who does the presentment to the grand jury. Our grand jury handbook, on the other hand, states we have the right to present to the grand jury. Like you said, I've been doing this for a while, and I actually have a letter from November of 2011 from the Supreme Court Justice in Virginia that myself and my witnesses were going to be allowed in front of the grand jury to expose the same corruption that Alba is trying to expose. And what happened there was they chose a judge to hear it. There are 4 people that can prevent you from going in front of the grand jury in Virginia. It's the judge, the clerk of court, the Commonwealth attorney, and the sheriff. One of the reasons they're trying to get rid of our sheriffs is our sheriffs actually have more power than our judges. Our sheriffs are the most powerful people in our community, but, and I don't know how to say it nicely, they don't recognize it. And if they do recognize it, they don't have the
fortitude.
Thank you, fortitude. Every word that was coming to my mind was bad. So I appreciate that, Al, that to actually take the stance for the people, because they like the power they have in our courts next to the judges who are now their friends and they go fishing with, or they go to dinner with, or they're invited to the parties because the sheriffs need them to stay in their place and do what they say. Or the judges need them to stay in their place and do as they say. So we don't have the best of the best being chosen as our sheriffs. So this has been going on for a long time. And so whenever I hear someone doing something with the grand jury, I stick my nose into it, invited or not. Luckily, Aldo invited me. I knew there was stuff going on in Virginia Beach. There was a lawyer who about a year and a half ago tried to get in front of the grand jury. And I don't think she lost her license. She may have lost it for a month and she got fined. I have been doing it in Virginia Beach, trying to get an investigation on Biden and crew, because after Afghanistan, where those 13 young men were killed, it was like God came to me in the middle of the night and said, you need to do this. And he led me to Culpeper, because one of the things you have to have is jurisdiction. Wherever you are, the judge has to have jurisdiction, the court has to have jurisdiction, and you have to have jurisdiction to bring it. So what gave me jurisdiction in Culpeper, Virginia, even though I live in the city of Alexandria, is that 2 of the flight attendants had died there. And I took it to Culpeper because Culpeper in Virginia is littered with history. Washington surveyed it. Justice Powell and Justice Scalia, and Justice Powell was from there, stated that the grand jury belonged to the people, that it was the fourth arm of government that we owned. So we have to start taking back our government by saying, wait a minute, you work for me, so I get to go into the grand jury, I get to do this. You'll find a lot of stuff online where people try to do these people grand juries and they make a lot of money off of it. It's telling you that, they have some kind of power. All they are is another Zoom, that isn't going to be taken seriously. In order to make it seriously and to have the authority, it has to go through the law. We're a land of laws. We don't have to like them, but we are a land of laws. And we're also a land of a constitution and certain rights. And our constitutional rights come above our laws. And actually, in Virginia, up until recently, if you tried to look at the chart of Virginia, you would have we the people, the governor, and then the legislatures and stuff. Anymore, you don't find the people on top of anybody. You find us as slaves. We have no rights if you were to ask either our federal government or our state government. But anyways, let me get back to the grand jury here. So I'm well aware of it. And when Aldo was telling me that he was going to do that, I said, have you ever visited your grand jury? And he said, no. And I said, well, listen, I will come down there and we're going to visit it because we need to see how it's done before we take the steps of going in there and doing it. So on June 17th, I went down there with him to go to the grand jury, and it was just me and him. And basically what happened was I went into the grand jury room without him because he didn't come in with me at that point. And the Commonwealth attorney looked at me and said, who are you? I introduced myself. I'm Janice Wolk Grenadier. I'm a certified ADA advocate, and I'm just going to watch. You can't do that. And I said, yes, I can. The grand jury is open to the public to watch the swearing in. I gave one of the gentlemen my card. The judge did not swear in the grand jury and do the instructions of the court. The court has instructions of what the judge is supposed to say, how they're supposed to be sworn in. There's supposed to be a court reporter. I mean, it's a whole ritual. And it should be a ritual because those people are taking a one-sided view and indicting people on crimes that they may not have committed. And actually, you should have the right to go into the grand jury when your crime is being permitted or being told. The saying is an attorney, a prosecuting attorney, Commonwealth attorney can indict a ham sandwich. And it's true because they go in there, they give their side, they may embellish it. None of us know what they say because it's all done in private, and it should be done in private. But we have a lot of unethical corruption going in on our courts. So we sat through it, and I said, we need to stay to the end. We need to see, they've already screwed this up. And so the cops were really rude to us. Aldo and I wound up making a police report. Aldo, two of the police officers in there, Aldo has stated that they threatened to arrest him. I didn't hear everything, but I know they were rude to me and threatening to me, but I just let it go. I'm used to that. I'm the fear of being caught is sometimes worse than the fear of standing up. And so I went ahead and, we made a report, a police report of how we were spoken to and everything, to a officer of Italia and Gills in the Virginia State Police on the 17th of June. So then we go back on July 1st. And I'm there as in my capacity as an ADA advocate. Again, I think I introduced myself to the Commonwealth attorney that was there, but I don't really remember. But what took place and what Aldo did was so brave. I mean, I fight it, but I fight it more in their box than in my own box, which is wrong. But there's a reason, which we'll get up to. So on July 1st, Aldo stood up and said, point of order, I would like to speak with the grand jury. And he was surrounded by officers. He was taken out of the room. I believe you interviewed him about this. There were other people in the gallery of the court, and they came out later. But I kind of left right after Aldo did, just to make sure he was fine, what the police were going to do. And they escorted him out of the courtroom, and it was sheriffs, escorted him out of the court building and said, you are welcome back. You are welcome back. But today you must leave. So they weren't kicking him out. They didn't say he can't come back. He can't have the conversation. It is, to my knowledge, no one called him in between and said, oh my God, we're going to be waiting for you. We're going to get you the next time. And due to the fact that these criminals have taken everything from me, I drive a very old car and they couldn't make it down there. So luckily there was someone going down on the 15th also. I also had gotten a ride on June 17th or on July 1st. So on June 15th, we get there. And there were several people there. And I went on up, went into the room. I very politely introduced myself, and all the sheriffs were in there and the police officers. You're not walking into the room.
That you said June 15th or July 15th?
July 15th. I'm sorry. July 15th.
I apologize. Please continue.
No, I was probably wrong. So we walk into the courtroom, and I see the Commonwealth attorney, and I've never introduced myself to him before. So I didn't go into the well of the court, which is where the Commonwealth attorney's the tables are and the court reporter and whatnot. This is interesting. This time they had a court reporter. The last couple of times they didn't, which they're required to do, from my understanding. So I go up to the wall before the well of the courtroom, said to the Commonwealth attorney, I'm Janice Grenadier. Here's my card. I'm an ADA advocate. Nothing threatening, nothing. I'm a 65-year-old woman. How threatening can I be? And then I see there is a court reporter. So I said, excuse me, do you mind if I get your card? And I asked permission to go into the well. I'm told no by the sheriff. He goes and gets it and hands it to me, which is customary in the court. Usually, if you have documents or anything in a case, the sheriff hands them up to the judge. You don't take them up to the judge. You don't take them to the jury. You don't take them directly to somebody who's testifying until after you're given permission to. And that's, so the grand jury comes. So basically I've introduced myself. You can tell I'm not threatening. You can tell I'm not going to, I have no weapons. Of course you get in there, you're not even allowed your cell phone, which is a real problem in Virginia. the federal courts used to not allow our cell phones. They still don't in Virginia. The DC federal court now allows us to bring in our computer and cell phones. And the only reason we're not allowed to do it is because we might catch a judge doing something he's not supposed to. And this is how he protects himself and everybody else in there, and gives him unlimited, unwilling power over you to overmaster and harm you. So basically what happened was the grand jury came in. I was in there, a few other people that work with Aldo. Aldo was in there, I believe, and Victor. And it was set up that maybe a couple people were going to read the presentation, but Victor was going to go first. And Victor is not a large man. He's about 140 pounds, I was told. He's a Black man on top of that. And he has a presence, though. And he got up and started reading after the grand jury had been spoken to by the judge before they left. And he kept reading. And I stood up because he was surrounded by, I would say, at least 8, maybe more, maybe 6 police officers. I couldn't see him sitting down. So I stood up. And when the police started to come to me, I stated, I'm an ADA advocate. I just want to make sure he's okay. I really believed they were going to kill him. And especially being that he was Black and not a very big man, and the way they were tossing him around. But then the cop, Mark Rupert, he grabbed me, and I had a scratch on my neck. I had all these bruises came out, my back, my neck, everything was hurting. It got worse and worse and worse as the week went on. And so he was slamming me in the walls. He was opening the door basically with me, slamming me in the walls in the vestibule, in the hallway, just kept slamming me up against the wall. Even though I was standing there quietly, I knew not to fight him. I wasn't fighting him. I couldn't keep my balance as we were walking out of the courtroom because of the way he was tossing me. And so, that could look either way. I don't know. I haven't seen the footage yet because my understanding is they're denying the footage to all of us. I did refuse any type of treatment from the from the jail because of the fact that I assumed I was going to be getting out, and I wanted to go to my own doctors, which I did immediately. And I also have had all the x-rays, and it's been diagnosed as an assault from all the damage that was done. So basically, and they then walked me down the hallway, and Rupert was pinching my arm. And I'm like, could you stop doing that? That hurts. I mean, he just wanted to hurt me. And it was he's a sick man. I mean, you can see him in some of the videos that were taken when they were just protesting. He has some kind of anger to women that isn't healthy, and no citizen should have to deal with it. I had established 3 times being there that I was polite to the court, that I was an ADA advocate, and I had every right to make sure he was okay. And the court did nothing to protect me. Everybody that was in there just stood by, which means they were complicit, and they have liability because their job is to protect us. And that's one of the things we're not demanding from these people, is that if you see one of your own do something wrong, as activists, we're always fighting with each other. When we see someone do something we don't like or we don't think is right, we let them know it. And then there's all these hurt feelings. So we have to take back our country. We have to take back our courts. And how do we do it? It's through the grand jury. I should have gotten an investigation into Biden back in 21. But because the judge was afraid that someone could do it to him, The judges have all colluded in the state of Virginia to deny access to the grand jury for any of the citizens. So I admire that they're standing up and saying, you know, point of order. I have not thought it that way. I don't know that I would, especially now after being hurt the way I have been. But they have every right to be doing this. And it should be noted on July 25th, we are going to be in Richmond, where he does have a court hearing in order for the judge to take, and I have intervened in that case. I should be able to speak because not only did I intervene, I did I never get this word right, a precipitate into being able to speak so that I can argue, hopefully, the rights. I am not a lawyer. I am only an advocate. But I firmly believe that all across the United States, we have the right to go into the grand jury. We have the right to present the public corruption, and we have the right to have an investigation. We should not have to do it in the hallway of a church or in the outside. We are in a coffee shop. We own these the courts. We own all the buildings these people work in. It's our taxpayer money that pays for them, that pays their salary, that pays every judge's salary who thinks he can get on the bench and treat us like a piece of shit and get away with it. And that's where we get to, where you see at top of me, JudicialPedia.com. What I realized is we have nowhere for people to have an outlet to tell their story. And so people can sign on to JudicialPedia.com, put their case up, list their judges, talk about it. It's a platform no different than Wikipedia or Facebook or anything like that. The difference is you do have your own dashboard, so you can see how many times people look at the case, look at your case, what's in your toolbox. You can get information about where to do judicial complaints, where to, you know, what an ADA advocate is, and the Constitution, the grand jury. I've got different information up there for you, but it's important you add your case. You don't have to say anything back. You can also add a case where you say something good about an attorney. 5 million views all around the world. I support this through what little money I make, and I have kept it up that way because I don't want anyone to be able to say people can't tell the truth on there. And people aren't going to put something up about an attorney, and all judicial complaints, all bar complaints can go up there, any type of a case. It's important to expose them. That's what they're afraid of. No cameras in the courtroom. We don't want you to be able to tell people what we're doing. Transcripts in Virginia, there are thousands of dollars because they don't want you to be able to appeal them. We have no regress in Virginia against this corruption because we don't have the separation of power that we were supposed to have between the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive branch, because of the fact that our legislature, our Virginia State Bar, they choose our judges, and the judges owe debt to the people that put them there. So have I any questions?
Powerful. Yeah, you talked about the separation of powers and how we've lost that in our great republic. And we fundamentally know that when there is no separation of power, only tyranny can exist. And that's very much the flavor of what we've seen happening there in Virginia Beach. And I'm certain that story is replicatable across vast arenas here within the United States, shamefully and tragically though it may be. And sort of on that same flavor, the January 6th situation, if I may segue, JW, just for a moment here,
Yeah, no, I'd be grateful.
Is the same flavor and is the same type of caliber, but really stepped up to like a prisoner of war level almost that we've seen happening within the, I believe it's the District Circuit of the District of Columbia there for the United States. And if I understand correctly, that's also our constitutional circuit. So, you know,
Yep.
when we were talking before, we came on the show today, you were describing some of the work that you've actually also done on that front as well. It's sort of like you've been waging war on two battlefields, and I'm very impressed at that, quite frankly.
Thank you.
Do you care to take my audience through what you've been doing on the January 6th side of this same coin?
I would, because it's very interesting. That court, I first went into that court back in 2014 when a blog was done on me. It's saying that I was anti-crime. It was a total constitutional hate crime against me, and the state of Virginia was involved in it. And I went to the court here. I went to the police here. They had hired men to harm me. And the police were told by the Commonwealth Attorney in the city of Alexandria, you never take a police report from our county, our city of Alexandria, Commonwealth Attorney, the judges, the lawyers were all involved in trying to ruin me and to, basically kill me. I mean, I don't want to sound like a crazy person, but the things I could show you and tell you are the things people say, she's crazy, just leave her alone. So in order to get standing again and to basically try to show I wasn't crazy, because until this happens to you, you're like, this can't be happening. This is the United States of America. But yet it's happening. Guardianships and divorce, whatever these judges and these lawyers can get their hands on your money, they're doing it. So basically when January 6th happened, and I was there that day, and I do have a press pass, and I did a story on it. It's on my blog. Because it was people like me. They look like me. They're from Ohio. They're from all over. They couldn't have been nicer. And what happened was the police officers, and I was there early on. I was in the back near the Supreme Court because I was there to do some business with somebody who was filing something. They just kept moving the bicycle racks back to let us up. There was no one with a bullhorn. There was no one saying, don't come, don't do this. So, I mean, I went all the way up. And in my mind, I was like, oh my God, is this my BLM moment? Do I go in? Do I not go in? And then you saw some people that didn't look like me and didn't look like they belonged. And they had these poles. And where they got these big poles, I have no idea. And they started banging them into windows. Now, this is the Capitol building. Everything about it is historic, and you don't do that. And that's what made me leave. But, because that was just getting out of hand in my eyes. But people were polite. They weren't these hoodlums like you saw and have heard. But I got asked to be an ADA advocate for one of the guys. And I got asked because, and so on a Friday, what they did is they told them, you only get 4 days for a trial. You're not allowed to use the Constitution. And if you do, we're going to go after your attorneys. And what was the third? There were several things that just were so unconstitutional, unfair. So over the weekend, I did a writ of mandamus to the Supreme Court asking them to investigate. And they turned the writ away. They didn't do anything with it. And I sat through that trial, and instead of only being 4 days, it ran into about 2 weeks because the judge saw me just taking notes every single day. So we fast forward, and I watch a few more. I see a few more stuff happening, and I am sick to my stomach. And the one that made me the sickest was the young man, and he was in his 50s, but to me that's young anymore. I went to his sentencing, and the prosecuting attorney stated he didn't go in the building, he didn't harm anybody, he wasn't in the face of a bunch of people. I mean, it was one of the most minute things. I mean, it could have been me. And the one thing he did have, which was some beer mace on him, but he didn't spray it into anybody. They wanted 20 years. And the judge gave him 15. And I could hardly even get myself out of the pew. I just couldn't believe it. And when I walked outside, there was about, I'd say about 10, 15 of these prosecuting attorneys and even his attorney, and they're all laughing. And I looked at the prosecuting attorney and said, I have to ask, is this really what you call justice? Is this really, how can you live with yourself? And all of them started laughing and saying, I'm stupid, I don't know this or that. And, and I didn't care. I mean, here you have like 15 women and men, mostly men, making fun of you in the courthouse. And I'm looking at them and I think, and I just said something like, I have more respect for my trash man than I do for any of you. Because I no longer have any respect for lawyers and judges. I respect my trash person who comes. He's there regularly. He couldn't be nicer to me. He'll even, if he sees I haven't put my trash down, get it for me and stuff. Where these guys are only looking to harm. They're not looking, they have no sympathy, nothing. What I realized is most of these men were Christians and Catholics, and I'm Catholic. And my hate crime was my ex-husband is Jewish, never been to synagogue with him, but yet for some reason he wanted nothing to do with his children or me because I raised him Catholic, his whole family. And that's pretty much what they did it on me. So I had all the proof and everything. So it got to the point where I was going into the jail as an advocate and meeting with the guys, and then I was banned from the jail because it saw it was helping them. And I was having issues with getting into the courts and stuff. So I decided it was time to do a writ of mandamus or a letter to the court for an investigation into the all the judges of that court and give a copy to the Supreme Court of the United States. It's about 150, 200 pages long with all the information. I was asking for 3 investigations. And around 2014, 15, 16, Judge Richard Roberts, who was the chief judge, this young girl had for 30 years been tracking him. And he had raped her when she was 16, and she was a victim of a crime. And so it finally got to the point where the judiciary had to deal with it. She had finally gotten it to that point. And Merrick Garland, our attorney general, and Burrell Howe, who would become the next chief judge who handled my cases, covered it up. They let him retire early. So if a judge screws up, he gets to retire early with all of his benefits, even raping a 16-year-old victim. So I'd never forgotten that. And I have the case up on JudicialPedia. You can see it. So I then thought about it and I thought, well, then you have my case, and my case gives me the standing. My case gives me the standing to say, these judges hate Catholics and Christians. These judges agreed that another religion could come in and violate your rights on a religion that they are. So I thought that gives me the standing to do this. And then just the constitutional rights, the biases that they showed to them like they did to me. And so I was able to get them. So when I took the letter to each one, the Supreme Court immediately overnighted it back to me and said, we want this in a format of a writ of mandamus prohibition. The district court, excuse my language, but basically sent me a fuck you letter, either put it on our forms or we're not going to bother with your complaint, which is what they do with all complaints against judges anyways. So I put it in the format of writ of mandamus prohibition, and I filed it on Flag Day, and it's about 400 pages. And around the 24th of May, I noticed that the Department of Justice had come out with a new format of the list of all the January 6 people. They were now listing how long they were going to jail. So I had the perfect 103 pages that showed everybody who had been sentenced and the outrageous amount of time that they were sentenced for. So it now sits in the Supreme Court of the United States, and the opposing side is supposed to answer. And since the lower court refused to investigate, that gave standing even harder to the Supreme Court of the United States. That even gave them more standing, because our judges and our judiciary, they police themselves, and they don't want the government getting involved in it. They don't want to have the legislature to say that they get to police them. So and it was funny because one of the things I didn't know is that each justice has a certain part of the country that they're responsible for. And Chief Justice John Roberts has Virginia and DC. So he's responsible for the investigation into these other judges. So what now needs to happen is, somebody who is a January 6th person or whatever, they should intervene, or they should get in touch with me and do an amendment to my claim, which I can do for them. You have to submit so many copies. But it's really important. And the one thing the Supreme Court has done by doing this is it shows that they have the authority to investigate the judges, not only the judges of the federal court, but the state courts. Because remember, they take the appeals from the state courts. Virginia, unfortunately, our Supreme Court, nice guys, nice people, nice judges, but they're corrupt. And they do it in such a way that, and here, I'm the ex-wife of the son of a judge. So many parties where there were judges, lawyers, all really nice people. And I would watch them trade cases. I would listen to them talk about how, like in a divorce, they all knew how much money was there. And they would trade off which was going to win, the husband or the wife. And they wouldn't even settle it until the lawyers were sure that they got as much money as they could. So we have to educate ourselves on what the goals of the judiciary is and how we can prevent them from making us their next victim. So thank you for sharing that on the screen.
What you have just described could not be better, I think, summed up than a Gotham-style racketeering and criminal conspiracy that is self-reinforcing on levels that I personally, have not entertained in quite some time. So bearing all of that and considering the work that's going in with this mandamus writ that's docketed, this case is docketed but has not been ruled or seen. Is that correct?
Well, I think they're still investigating it. What the writ of mandamus and prohibition demanded was an investigation into each one of those cases, and that it was at 103 cases then, my case and the other case. And so I'm not exactly sure how they're going to respond to it. I think we will probably end up having to do a FOIA request to their response, because like everything else, they try to keep things as private as possible, especially in investigating themselves. But remember, no matter if they take even 1 ounce, just by taking it, they've stated, we know there's a problem. By sending it back to me and saying, put it in the format of a writ of mandamus, they've stated there's a problem there, and they know it. So why, we just had the ruling, I believe it was Fisher, and a lot of the J6s are thinking, oh, this is so great, this is going to turn everything around. Well, no, you have to now file to get it turned around, and you have to do this and you have to do that. If my mandamus if it's been accepted, they knew there was an issue. They wrote me a letter saying, put it in the format. That means every order that those judges did is void. It's not voidable. They never had jurisdiction because they had such a deep-rooted bias because of religion, because of political, for several reasons, friendships and whatnot. So it's a win. It was a winner the minute they docketed it. And the minute they wrote me that letter, because they can't now say, oh, well, we were just trying to appease you. No, you don't appease someone with a letter. When I did it for Joe Thomas with the ADA, they completely said, no, we're not taking this. This they asked for. They know there's an issue because you had Chief Judge Burrell Howe speaking at different events stating that it was politically what her thoughts were. We all know she's a Democrat. We all know she's a Jewish Democrat that does not like Catholics and Christians. I mean, it's been documented. And this is the person who came up with the game plan on how the judges of that court were to handle the J6 cases, along with Merrick Garland, which in my case stated, as a Jew, we don't like Catholics and Christians. We're not going to hold up your rights. And let's not forget, in Richmond, Virginia, at this same time in 2014-15, there was a letter that stated target Catholics. They're on your radar for being terrorists because they believe in life. So, they can't now say, oh, we didn't mean that. It's all documented. And that's my opinion, and I'm sticking with it.
Indeed. JW, for patriots out there who want to connect directly with you and learn more or contribute to the cause in some form or fashion, and especially for those that may be connected to anything having to do with January 6th, how can that best be accomplished?
Well, they can call me. They can Zelle me money. That would be a nice surprise. 202-368-7178. I also have PayPal. But if you go to JudicialPedia.com, any of the court documents have my phone number on them. And you can even send a message through that. You can send me a message at JudicialPedia@gmail.com. But it's really important because the January 6th people that take that extra moment and even just do 2 or 3 pages to show the bias, to show what happened in their case, and they can do it by their appeal. If they did an appeal, they can easily attach their appeal to it, or a portion of it, just copy and paste it to show the bias of the judge. And what'll happen is the Supreme Court will be forced to look at a judicial complaint against that judge. And if that judge is found that there are issues, and we've got to watch and make sure they don't just go ahead and retire these judges and take care of it that way. But even if they do that so that they get their money, I think are going to be able to hold them accountable. We have to remember we do have more of a Christian Catholic, and I'm not saying it sounds bad, Supreme Court, who has allowed for years for Catholics to be terrorized, and it's got to stop. We can't have we have an FBI today that is spending more money on watching us than they are watching out for terrorists for Trump. More money is spent on me. I have figured out at least $1 million a year by the FBI is spent on me, spying on me. I mean, to the point where when I traded my phone into T-Mobile must have given my phone to the FBI, because now, even though they cleared it, there must have been enough cookies for them to be able to always get into my iCloud and look to track me, because my old phone still shows up on my phone as tracking me or getting into my email. So it's crazy. It's crazy what our government is doing.
Indeed it is. But I think the efforts that you and many other patriots have undertaken, we're going to change that. And we're going to bring our republic back to a status of balance with we the people.
And I want to end this with just saying again what a remarkable job that Aldo's doing. And it's remarkable that he's going out and he's running for sheriff. And that's something that all of us should be putting out everywhere, that Virginia Beach needs to make the change. We need to make the change in every county. We need sheriffs. We need real men running for sheriff. You don't have to have been in the police. You don't have to have been anything, but we need real men in that position who can hold everybody accountable.
Indeed, we do. And I look forward to those days, JW, just as you there in Virginia and patriots around the country are expecting and anticipating. But we have to get in the fight, and we have to be kinetic and move into a peaceful but firm position as we the people under God.
Correct. And this is a God fight. I mean, I can't tell you how bubble wrapped I feel by him, and that he's watching all of our moves and giving us the strength to get through it.
Amen. For the audience out there, I hope you've really enjoyed our conversation today. JW, God bless you and keep you. Thank you for coming on. Peace be with you, with your spirit, and we'll look forward to tracking the events with the mandamus as they develop.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And thank you for getting our story about what happened in the grand jury in Virginia Beach and the harm that was brought to Victor and to myself. And I believe they, from the video, were doing whatever they could to make sure that Aldo was also harmed.
The honor has been mine, and we will continue to monitor these events as they develop. For everyone
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. For everyone out there, I hope you've enjoyed the conversation. I'll be back with each of you again soon on the Q News Patriot. This is SG Anon. God bless everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.